and welcome to the 11th episode of Babble-On with Vampa, the show where I, Vampa de l'Ombra, and my lovely co-host Dad McMahon,
hey there,
summon all sorts of musicians, filmmakers, authors, artists, actors, and any other creative types we can find, down to my lair where we can talk about their projects. If you're returning, welcome back. Are you still shy about pushing my buttons? Don't be. Specifically the like and subscribe. And once you've done that, consider joining our growing community of Babylonians on Patreon, where you'll be privy to all sorts of exclusive perks and bonus content. So with that out of the way, we can go into our new segment that we introduced last episode called Ask Dead, where I've invited, and Dad have invited you, the viewers, to ask any question about our mysterious pal, Dad McMahon. This week, our question comes from John, the Master Walrus, our friend and our past guest on Babble-On, and he asks, now that you're dead, what's the meaning of life?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. When I died, due to a clerical error, I ended up in dog heaven. And there it was revealed to me that the meaning of life is to sit in the yard all day and bark at anything that moves.
Wow. Well, I think that advice can and does apply to most humans I know. Well, now I'd like to bring up my guest for this episode, star of stage and screen, and you will recognize her from her roles in Vampa's Visions, actress Josie Stec. Hi, Josie.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming out to the lair.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm really excited to talk to you. So we first met back in, I think, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
We were both writing reviews for the Movie Sleuth.
Yes.
And around that time, well, that wasn't me, actually. I forgot to mention that. That's my alter ego, Mara. That was when I was trying to kind of be a little more straight, I guess, and fit into the land of the living. That's what I was doing. I had already done Cannabis Cannibals, and I was getting ready to do my next film, Murder Pool, and I believe that you reached out to me after I did a casting call.
Yeah, you posted on Facebook.
Yeah, and that role, the role of Janet, the very angry wife of James Gorse, that was very hard for me to cast because it involved jumping into a pool with all your clothes on.
It did.
And Josie was awesome. She was the hero because she was really enthusiastic about it. So I felt like I was doing something right, you know. And I remember, Josie, you even had the perfect dress. Like I was like, oh, I want like a blue floral, and you took a selfie and you were like, I'm wearing it right now.
Blue floral.
Yeah. So that was my first time working with Josie, and I really enjoyed working with you.
I had a blast.
And then, 2 or 3 years later, I started working on Occasion of Sin, and I knew writing it that I wanted you to play Pearl. I almost forgot the name of, and that's the name of your kitty.
Yeah, she was inspired by my character in An Occasion of Sin.
Yeah. So I already knew that I wanted you to play Pearl, when I was writing that. So that was kind of a little bit with you in mind. I already had written it earlier before I met you, but then I kind of added in what I thought your attitude was like. Very different from Janet, too.
Very different.
Yeah. So I had a great time working with you on that too.
That was very fun.
I think the first night we shot with you was at my friend's house, and it was the basement scene. And I wasn't that familiar with the location because it was my friend's house, and I believe it was at that point it was their new house and in the basement, so it's not like I had been there that many times. When I was storyboarding, I remembered the room completely different. And I was I kind of panicked. I was like, oh, this is not how I storyboarded it. Where's the camera going to go? And you stepped in and you were like, okay, I know this is touchy and you shouldn't really say something to director, but can I say something? And I was like, please. And thank you for that, because
You're welcome.
I think about that whenever I watch that. It looks so cool. It works really well, and yeah, I really enjoyed working with you on those movies. But yeah, just giving kind of like the background of that. Do you have any like memories maybe that you'd want to share from working on either one of those movies?
So with Murder Pool, I remember that it was so hot. It was like 2,000 degrees outside that day that we shot. And all that I knew was that when I got to the end, I got to jump in the pool. And die into the pool.
Yeah.
And that was really just like the main motivation. It's like, get your stuff done right so you can die into the pool. And then the super fun thing, I did learn a life lesson that day, which is bring a towel. Because I had to drive home soaking wet. It was fine.
Yeah.
But that was, I know that was just one day with Murder Pool. And then with Occasion of Sin, we did like several shots, several different locations. Pearl was super fun. I mean, it wasn't a stretch. I felt very much like I was playing myself when I was playing that role. I've made, all of those faces were genuine Josie expressions for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a sassy person myself. There's a lot of like sarcasm and eye rolling just in my day-to-day life, so Pearl felt very natural for me.
Yeah, I really liked that character. I really wanted her to be like, you take her side when you're watching it, and you know, she ends up, I guess I don't want to give any spoilers about Occasion of Sin, because it's still out there. It still might make it in some film festivals. We're waiting on a few still. And you know, I don't want to blow it, but anyway, you know, I kind of set it up to where you are siding with Pearl at first, and she would be the voice of reason in a normal movie. Let's put it that way. She would be kind of like the
one who's right.
Yeah, the person that the audience like kind of sides with, and that. So yeah, I'm definitely want to work with you again. I'll say that
for sure,
because I have more ideas. It's just a matter of getting it written down and doing it.
For sure.
When it was hot too at Murder Pool, I remember I jumped in the pool too, because I was like, all right, everyone jumped. I think that was the same day that Mike, who plays James Gorse, I think that was the day that he submerged too.
Yeah, I think we all went in the pool that day.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump in too.
It was a good day to go.
And I didn't have a towel either, so I was like, this is fine. It was so hot that like so I kind of didn't care.
I'm pretty sure it was like record-setting hot that day.
Yeah.
It was like over 100 degrees and like 90% humidity and just disgusting outside.
And I think that was the last day we shot, and we had shot, it took took 2 summers to shoot that movie because of the fact that it was dependent on the weather. And weekends where everyone was free, and it was one of the other actresses' parents' house that had the pool. So that was, I think, the last day that we shot.
That seems right.
And it was just, that was a very memorably hot day.
It was fun, though.
Yeah.
Nobody had a bad time.
No.
Which is shocking in that heat.
Yeah.
I'm usually not very pleasant to be around in that kind of environment.
Me either, especially, well, the humidity really does me in, and I get very irritable with that. But yeah, so the heat's okay. I'm used to being, you know, in hell, but it's a dry heat there with, you know, there's not a lot of moisture. So you typically act on stage. You're a theater person.
Primarily stage actor. Yes.
And when did you start acting in theater?
So I started acting my sophomore year of high school. I did my first play. And it was actually, I went to a Catholic high school. But my first play was an adaptation of the Oedipus trilogy, the Greek tragedy, Oedipus at Colonus, and Antigone, which is super dark.
Yeah.
For a Catholic high school. I mean, and it wasn't edited in any way. I mean, Jocasta stabbed her eyeballs out, or I'm sorry, Oedipus stabbed his eyeballs out with Jocasta's pins, all that stuff. I went to MSU as a theater major, and I kind of burned out. Depression and like mental health stuff took that away for a very long time.
It'll do that, the creative stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty much just gone. Like I didn't have the emotional energy for it. And then after I moved back to Michigan, a local community theater was doing Jesus Christ Superstar, which my husband and my mom both knew was like one of my very favorite shows. They were like, you should go audition. And I went through like talking myself out of it 100 times. The morning of, I was like, I don't think I'm going to go. I don't think I want to do this. And I ended up going. I didn't know anybody. And I had such a good time. Like it was kind of shocking how good of a time I had. And I ended up getting cast in the ensemble. And then my husband saw how much fun I was having and said, hey, I want to audition for this next play that's coming up. And I was like, well, that would be fun. And I'm having a good time doing this, so I'll audition again. And that kind of spiraled into not really having gone more than like a couple of weeks in between shows since like September of 2018. And even through the pandemic, I was recording videos for cabarets. I'm pretty sure I was in every single filmed on stage for streaming production in like the local Downriver area.
Yeah, I remember you doing that. Yeah.
I was in a movie musical that we did.
That's the one I'm remembering. Yeah.
Yeah, which was super fun. And then a couple other stage shows. I double book myself. I triple book myself. Like I'm always doing many, many things at once. But I have such a good time. Like it definitely is my passion.
Yeah. And so you've been doing this for almost 4 years? 5 years? Okay. And is it all with the same community group?
No. There are a lot of community theaters in the Downriver area in general, and I'm on the board at the Southgate Community Players. This upcoming show that I'm doing is with the Downriver Actors Guild. I've done things with Livonia Community Theater, Barefoot Productions, Inspire Theater, and those are in Livonia and Westland.
Okay.
So it's really, they're all over. I am very much I'm going to go where the environment is good and they're doing the shows that I want to do.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. And it's nice that you have the support system and your husband and your mother's pushing you to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the even added support that your husband Mike is doing his own thing in it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
he's totally bitten and has done, like, we do stuff together. We absolutely do shows together. But, I mean, he's doing a show tonight.
Yeah.
While we're talking. So, yeah, he's got his own whole thing going on. And when it works out and we do shows together, it's great. Like, we have a really fun time working together. We've actually never played, like, opposite love interest. The last show we were in together, I actually ended up, like, giving him a hard time. And there are pictures of, like, the faces that I was making at him. It was a farce that are just hysterically funny, like, especially considering it's my husband. But we have a really good time. Yeah. And very supportive families. That's and a lot of theater friends who understand and are also similarly crazy.
Yeah, and I've been actually thankful for that because I was introduced to Dylan Hart through you, who was in Occasion to Sin.
Yes,
I love Dylan too.
He's one of my favorite people to share the stage with.
We
were
great.
Igor and Frau together in the Young Frankenstein
I wish
musical.
I would have not missed that one.
We had so much fun together. We really did.
Yeah, Dylan's someone else who I need to. I don't think he's a good fit for the next movie I want to do, but because I don't. It's a little similar, I think, to the role he played in Occasion of Sin. But I want to do something with him that'll be kind of zany and way different than
he can
Aaron.
do it too.
Yeah. I know. I want to see him do that. And I also was I never met him in person, but Wyatt.
I love Wyatt.
I put out a casting call for my friend David Villio's movie Boxes.
Yeah, I remember that. I shared that.
That movie's hopefully still gonna come out this October.
Yeah.
he answered that casting call, hooked up with him. They became friends. He's one of the stars of the movie.
Wyatt is awesome.
And they worked on a movie with someone else that David knows for the 48-hour film project. And they
I saw
won.
posts about that. That's amazing. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
And Wyatt's going to be a guest in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's super awesome.
Yeah. So
we did a really cool scene together. We did a one-act show at Barefoot in Livonia. And it was an adaptation of a radio play where I played Ruby, who was a galactic gumshoe.
Oh, cool.
And he was like this alien with a spaceship that I like picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, I mean, it's as bizarre as it sounds. But we did like some slow-mo stuff on, it was a very cool thing to do.
That sounds neat. So they adapted a radio play for the stage.
Yes.
That's
cool.
cool.
One of the directors.
That's really neat. What are some of your favorite roles that you've played over the past few years, and even going back to high school, I guess, too?
So my senior year of high school, I was Audrey 2 in Little Shop of Horrors.
Fun.
And because it was my senior year, the director adapted, I was the spirit of the plant, so I actually crawled out of the plant and was on stage. I was wearing a lace bodysuit that we dyed green, so it, like, my skin had texture, and I had this really long wig, and I was painted. And I had a mic with like heavy echo on it and a double length blood red feather boa. So that was kind of, I mean, it's really hard to top that, but I've kept doing that. Young Frankenstein, that's like one of my favorite movies. It's one of like the first movies that my parents introduced me to, like Mel Brooks and that type of comedy, and it was a family favorite, and Cloris Leachman is everything.
Oh, she is.
And so Frau was a huge bucket list role for me.
Yeah.
So getting cast in that role was just like, it was so fun. That was such an arduous show though. Like that show is so big and there was so much work that went into it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody who worked on that show worked their tails to the bone. We did a comedy called 2 on the Aisle, 3 in a Van, which is like way lesser known. But it's about theater people, like a summer circle theater where they're doing like all of these shows throughout the summer, and I played the stage manager character. And I remember at one point, I had broken character. It was actually Dylan. Something Dylan did made me laugh, and I broke on stage. And the director during notes was like, "Josie, don't break character." And one of the other actors in it was like, "Josie's acting. She's playing herself." Like, it just was such like... That was such a fun role. And Annie Wilkes was my number one, like, all-time number one. From the minute I knew that Misery was a stage play, it was the number one role I wanted to play.
Wow. And you got it.
It still is a little crazy.
So, I mean, that's a perfect segue into talking about this new show, Misery.
Yes.
And you will be starring as Annie Wilkes.
I am, yes.
So, I mean, congrats on getting that role.
Thank you.
I remember you posting about that, and like right, when you got it, and we were all just congratulatory for you, and it's really exciting.
A crazy night. I auditioned on a Saturday, and there was another night of auditions on Monday. And I'm generally a second night of auditions kind of person. But I was directing a show at the same time, and we were in tech that week, so I was like, well, I can't skip my own tech rehearsal to go audition, so I'll audition Saturday. Yeah. So then it was all the way through Monday night, where I was waiting to find out, which is not my strong suit. I love the audition. I hate the lead up and the after waiting. Not my thing.
Yeah, I'm bad at that too.
But we had finished rehearsal for my show, and we needed to drink beers. I needed beer bottles empty for the show. So I was like, hey, there's beer in the fridge. Like, I'm going to sit here and wait until this cast list goes up if anybody would like to join me. So a bunch of my cast for the show that I was directing hung out, and we just kind of waited. When it was posted, like, I completely lost it. Like, screaming, jumping, stomping. But it was not... I had a lot of people who were like, this is your role, and I am not that kind of person. Like, I never I never anticipate just getting something.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of work that went into the audition, and then multiply that by 100 since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you've been rehearsing now for
Yes.
a few weeks, right?
Since the end of June.
Oh,
We've been in rehearsal since the end of June.
Time has been really flying.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually been off book for about a month.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we open just under 2 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
And this production the director is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of my favorite people to work with. She actually inspired me to want to do theater when I was younger. I saw her.
Oh, really?
In like 1995, my parents forced me to go see a production of Oklahoma at Huron Civic Theater, and I didn't want to go. And within like 2 minutes, I was completely in. And then this amazing woman came out playing Ado Annie, and was just like, "Oh my God, I want to do that." And it turns out now that I work with her.
That's really
as
cool.
a director. Yes, it is.
Really
It's super cool. So she's incredible, and then my counterpart, Mark Rosati, who plays Paul, is just, I mean, he's like a community theater professional, basically, at this point. He's been doing it for a lot of years, and he's fantastic. We have really good chemistry, and like, anytime when you call for a line and nobody in the directing team can tell you because they've stopped looking at the book and they're just completely engrossed in what you're doing in rehearsal, like that, I mean, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he can give you the line.
Oh,
he
so good.
knows the whole thing.
He's so good. Like, no, he's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I think people are really going to be surprised by, like, we're not messing around.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it. So is this the play based on the movie or the book or a combination of the both? Is its own thing?
It's kind of a combination. So the screenplay and the play were both written by William Goldman. So it definitely is more in line with the screenplay than the book, although it definitely draws from both. It's a little shorter. I think we're running probably around 90 minutes. There's no intermission in the show because you can't break that tension.
Right.
The whole thing is the build. It just builds from the start through the end. So there's not really any place to break. And it doesn't really need it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching a movie.
Yeah.
But I think the audiences are going to be very responsive and very excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely I've never seen the movie or read the book, and I want to see the movie. I've always wanted to watch it. I don't know why. It's just I've never have yet.
It's phenomenal.
But I mean, I know the story, and I know Stephen King's writing,
Yes.
so I kind of know how it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know? Are there any other, I guess, fun stories you can tell us about rehearsals or what's been happening, setting up?
Yeah, so I'm primarily a comedic actor. Mark is primarily a comedic actor, and Lucinda, our director, is primarily a comedic director. So, Stephen King's writing, there's so much comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we could turn this into a parody in like 2 seconds and not miss a beat.
I'd love to see that.
So we've kind of taglined the show like Misery, it's not a comedy, because at least 2 or 3 times per rehearsal, one of us will do something and one of the others will be like, it's not a comedy. It's not a comedy, you can't. But there are some things that are just, I mean, Annie herself is so guileless. That just some of the things that come out of her mouth, well, they are not intended, like, she has no intention of them being funny.
Right.
They are funny. Like, I know that some of the things that I'm doing, people are going to be like, what? And that, I mean, that it fits with the character because she's kind of naive in her, whatever you want to call her mental state.
Yeah.
Her very stable, rational thinking.
So what kind of preparation do you need to do to, like, get into something like that when obviously you're not this disturbed?
Right. So I'm an over-preparer. Always. Before the audition, The director did not want to release any of the sides. So I don't like cold reads. So I kind of might have made my husband read the entire play with me out loud twice. Just so nothing would be cold. So that I would have at least have read it out loud a couple of times before. But once I got the part, I did a lot of character study on the Annie from the book and the Annie from the movie, and asked questions like, oh, well, if book Annie has this history of, like, actually killing people, being, like, an angel of death nurse, she was married, but she didn't kill her husband, like, why? Why didn't she kill her husband? And so, for me as an actor, I'm trying to work backwards to, because I think I can use that to build the character. Oh, so he left in the middle of one of her shifts. She came home from work and he was just gone. And I can use that to kind of fuel, well, she's never going to let Paul leave. She's never going to let Paul out of her sight. Because if they leave, they're gone. She lost her husband. So it's things like that. Like, I'm looking for different things that can inspire character choices and, like, motivation so that there are stakes. And it's not just empty line reading. Basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. You look for the why.
Yes.
Of the character's actions.
Why is she like this? Like, what led to this point? So there was a lot of research there. I learned that she has been studied by, like, psychiatrists and sociologists. And, I mean, she has page-long clinical diagnosis from different mental health professionals with things like borderline personality disorder and obsessive-compulsive disorder and a lot of different things. So I've used a little bit of all of that. I've also drawn inspiration from some maybe strange places. There's a very childlike quality to Annie, like the very naive. It is childlike. And there's also kind of almost like a vacant niceness, where it's nice, but there's just something off about it. Okay. So, like, little inspirations, Dolores Umbridge is one of my inspirations that I've kind of, like, pulled character pieces out of. So I over-prepare.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Dolores Umbridge.
Harry Potter.
Okay.
She's kind of the very cheerful, wears pink, loves kittens, and is a sadist, basically. Like, enjoys causing pain and misery in others. So, like, kind of that dichotomy of, like, very soft but evil. Yeah. I mean, that's a really interesting way to play, because it seems counterintuitive. Yes. You know? Yeah. But, I mean, those people exist. They're the scariest, too. Yes. Because you get that false sense of security that they are soft, and then it's like, nope. Yeah, and they do, like, all of that all together, like, these characters being real is the most important thing to me. Like, this show doesn't work if you don't believe me as a real person, if you don't believe Paul as a real person. Like, it will become a parody unintentionally, which is definitely not what we want. So, like, with all of that said, this is all grounded in realism, and, like, that these people are really in this situation, and he is really, like, stranded and with no help and no hope, and, like, she's the only thing he has. So, like, that the building of that relationship is really cool. That's gonna be neat. I'm gonna be excited to see that. We're gonna try to make the matinee show. Not that this needs to be on our show, but when does Misery open? We open September 16th. That is a week from this upcoming Friday. We are the 16th and 17th, Friday and Saturday, that first weekend at 7:30. And then the second weekend, 23rd, 24th, and 25th, the Friday, Saturday shows are 7:30. The Sunday matinee is at 3 o'clock. And what theater is this? So this is the Downriver Actors Guild, which is out of the 2nd Street Performing Arts Center, Downriver Actors Guild has been around for over a decade now, but they just moved into an old church school and have spent the last year renovating it. So it was really cool to watch it go from like a big church into this amazing stage. So they're still working on the school part, but the stage part is pretty close to done. It's in Wyandotte. And the best way to get information is to go to either the Downriver Actors Guild Facebook, or you can go to 2nd Street PAC, I believe it's .com, and that's 2NDSTPAC.
You guys can go to the description on the video, and I'll drop the links down there.
Yes, definitely do that.
For easy access.
For sure.
Because you don't want to miss this show.
No, you don't.
I wanted to ask you about this. It's kind of shifting a little bit, but you have experience, not on the stage as well, but behind the scenes doing, directing, too.
Yes.
What can you tell us about those experiences?
So I've only directed, during the pandemic, my friend Sydney Corbin and I directed, edited, produced an all-Zoom version of the Laramie Project, which was a much larger undertaking than what we had initially expected it to be. But it ended up, that show is so, it's kind of made to be done in an interview format. So it worked really well with the Zoom medium.
Yeah.
And then just this past June, my first live directing experience, I directed a production of Almost Maine. So I chose a show set in Maine in the winter, to direct in June in Michigan. So my actors were a little upset because they had to wear snowsuits and stuff. Yeah. But that was an altogether just wonderful experience. I had a really young cast. Most of my cast was early 20s. And we had such a good time. It was just a very positive experience, and then the show ended up just being more than my wildest dreams could have ever asked for, especially for my first time out. It's such an amazing feeling going into your final night of tech and just being they've got this. The audiences are going to love this. If something doesn't go exactly right, no one is going to care because these are such genuine, amazing performances.
That's cool. So, how do you compare, I guess, acting and directing for the stage?
So, one of my bandmates, my guitar player, who's also a director, when I was getting emotional about directing, he was so when you're acting, you're a part of the show. When you're directing, the whole thing is your baby. And it's so true. I'm very focused on Annie, and I'm only thinking about Annie. But if I was directing this show, it wouldn't just be the one character. It's the whole experience and the whole thing. And it's, I really loved it. The only thing is that I love acting so much that it's going to be hard for me to be I'm already having the issue. Do I want to direct this, or do I want to find somebody else to direct it and audition for it?
Yeah. And is there an option to do both, or is it just too much work?
There are people who can do that.
Yeah.
I don't think that my focus would be, I don't think that I would be at my best to split my focus like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I've acted in my movies, and it's been out of sheer, I need to. I don't have a person to do it. And I'm happy with my own work, and it was fine. It was okay. But there's always little directorial things I feel I missed out on because I was more focused on acting, or acting things I missed out on because I was more focused on directing. And when you're acting and you're the director, it feels like you have no director.
Exactly.
I have to pretend that I'm two people right now.
Right.
Am I doing it right?
I'm hypercritical of myself, so I'm never going to be happy. If it's me making the decision, I'm going to do the thing 200 times because I'm always going to find a flaw.
Yes, and I do when it's on camera and I can just go cut,
Right.
So, yeah, I totally feel you on that.
Yeah.
But I also understand the but I want to do both.
I do. There's so many shows. I mean, there are shows that I want to direct for sure, but there are still just so many shows that I would love to be in. So we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. One more question I wanted to ask you, and it's kind of going backwards a little bit, but I kind of forgot to ask. But how do you compare acting on stage to acting on in front of a camera?
So the stage gives you instant gratification. The stage is immediate, like, especially when you have an engaged audience. And you can tell, like, as an actor, you can feel if the audience is, like, hanging on your every word, or if they're thinking about, like, their grocery list for next week. Like, there's an exchange of energy in live performance that is unlike anything else. And, like, I think the first curtain call I ever did, the first time I ever, like, took a bow in front of a clapping audience, it was, like, this rush that was just, it's not really comparable to anything else. Like, it's just this moment of, like, sheer joy and excitement because you did this thing and you shared it with these people and, like, you've exchanged this relationship for the time. The screen is different because you can be more particular. I like do-overs. You know, I like the ability to be like, wait a second, that felt weird. Can we go back and do that again? I really enjoy doing both. But I think that, like, instant gratification of people, like, clapping or coming up to you after the show, like, that's just not something that can be duplicated elsewhere.
No, and even when you show the film at a screening, it's a little different because you're not in front of them. You're kind of looking at the back of trying to figure out what's happening.
Are they liking it?
And you know, people do react very differently to movies than they do.
For sure.
There's a person on stage. Someone might get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the movie, but it doesn't mean that they don't like it.
Right.
But I feel like you're not really going to get up and walk away in front of a person.
Yeah.
So there's just a little bit of a different, like, as an audience member, you receive it differently. So,
for sure.
Yeah. I can only imagine what that would be like. I would love to have instant gratification from a movie.
Yeah,
I would
amazing.
love that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, even that's good as a comment is kind of, it's removed from the actual, like, I can totally imagine that. That's probably a unreproducible high.
You should try directing a stage show.
I really want to. I've really been thinking about it. And actually, I've been doing the sketch writing class at Planet Ant, which has kind of got me into a little bit of theater.
We're going to have to talk because I have an idea that I think,
we will talk about this.
We should chat.
So now what's next as far as theater, acting, directing after Misery?
So I had a concert with my band that just happened this past Tuesday. So for all of July and August, I was double duty rehearsal and band practice. Like, if I wasn't at band practice, I was at rehearsal and vice versa. So that, right now, the only thing on my plate is Misery, which feels very strange because there's usually at least two things. Like, I've usually got at least two things happening. And I'm not really sure. There are a couple of shows that are auditioning coming up that I'm interested in. I like doing musicals, but I feel like I'm working harder as an actor doing plays.
Yeah.
So there's always kind of a toss-up, where, like, I love to sing, but I also, like, I sing with my band, so that I kind of sate that need there. And I definitely want to direct, but that will probably be like summer or fall. I've got a couple of different shows that I'm kind of waffling about. But yeah, I mean, I will likely audition for something.
Yeah. Probably
the weekend between the 2 weekends of Misery. We'll see.
No slowing down for you. You're going to keep going.
No, always.
Do you have more stuff happening with your band?
Yeah, we have a concert on October 1st
Nice.
at Barefoot Productions in Livonia.
What's the name of your band?
Ship to Nowhere.
Ship to Nowhere.
Yes.
I'll share the link in
Yeah.
the description to
Yep.
any materials you have for that.
Yeah,
too.
we're an eclectic cover band. We have a couple of different generations represented. It's pretty
Nice.
cool. Yeah. We have a couple of people in their 60s. Our cello player is in his 40s. I'm in my 30s. Our uke player is in her 20s. So we
wow,
kind of
you're all
like
over the
run.
place.
Yeah. And we do all over the place music. Jax, the TikTok star, to John Prine and the Beatles and Pink Floyd. So,
Wow. Very eclectic.
we do a lot of different stuff.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you in Misery.
I can't wait for people to see it.
I can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the next Vampa Vision.
Yes, let's do it. I'm ready. I will put you in my schedule. Just tell me and you're in my calendar.
We'll talk. Thank you again for coming
Thank
down
you.
to the lair. It's a little warm. Not
Yeah.
as, you know what? Not as hot when we did Hell Court, though.
No, Hellcourt.
So-
Hellcourt was very hell-like.
Yes.
It was real warm that day.
Yeah, it wasn't even supposed to be hell, but it became hell.
It did. I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
It worked.
So thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again real soon.
Come see Misery.